Curse is a 2023 dark romantasy novel by Harper L. Woods. It is a direct sequel to The Coven, which was also published in 2023. Yeah, I know. Took you long enough, Jenny. You put out your review for The Coven in February, Jenny. Why did it take you so long to read a romantasy book that's a third of the size of Iron Flame? Jenny, I have a life, you merciless little gremlins! And also, I wasn't enthusiastic about picking this one up. If you saw my review of The Coven, you know I had a lot to say about it. The writing and the storytelling was not great, the characters were paper thin, and I got rubbed the wrong way by the author's content warning at the beginning, where she disavowed her main male character's behavior because she was clearly nervous that certain people might accuse her of romanticizing or promoting abusive behavior. Said it in the Coven review, and I'll say it here again with my chest. People are always going to read malicious intent into your works. Some will even demand that you make your moral position on the devil, who is also a serial killer, manipulating and seducing a witch so that he can bang her and make her his devil queen, clear. You know, instead of just going with Occam's razor and assuming that the author is writing a horror romance book and indulging in dark fantasies rather than expressing literal, unironic support for the devil and also serial killers and manipulating your romantic interests. I need to change the topic before this turns into a rant. Anyway, I didn't like The Coven, but I bought it and The Curse together, so, you know, sunk cost fallacy. I need to read it so I can justify getting rid of it. So how did The Curse measure up to its predecessor? So the book more or less picks up right where the previous book left off. Grey is actually Lucifer Morningstar, i.e. the devil, and he's just killed a bunch of witches to open the gates of hell and get his original body back, as well as let a bunch of his demon homies out. There's some stuff that happens. Willow ends up getting her neck snapped, and Grey basically uses a little bit of himself to bring her back to life. That's somewhat important later, or as important as anything else in this book is. I don't know. Once Willow's back, Grey goes full asshole on her and says, "You're not leaving, I'm the devil, and I want you, so you're mine now, and oh, by the way, you're also my wife." I think I mentioned that at the end of the last recap. Willow is now somehow married to the devil. I don't know how. Willow is, dare I say, a touch miffed over the whole Grey being a serial killer and lying to her and manipulating her and also being, you know, the literal fucking devil thing. So she makes an attempt to escape. Grey basically lets her try to run through the woods of Crystal Hollow, which are populated by the Cursed. I kind of forget what they are, and that's actually okay, because despite the novel literally being named after them, they barely factor into the story at all. Anyway, Grey catches her, they do the horizontal tango, whatever. He makes it clear that if she tries to escape, he's going to kill anybody that helps her. So Grey's intention is that Willow be the new Covenant, i.e. the leader of the Coven, so she can lead the witches while he leads the demons and vessels. The Coven isn't wild about this arrangement because they don't trust the devil, which is valid, but also not. Grey killed a bunch of the students in the first book, so, you know, okay, obviously you're not going to trust him after that. But also, the lore of this book is that witches literally got their powers from the devil. Not sure what else you'd expect of him. What did you think he'd be like? Because Grey brought Willow back to life, she's now a super special, powerful witch who also has some devil blood in her and is also now the Avatar, I guess, who can wield the magic of all the witches. Also, she can resurrect the dead now. But Jenny, I thought it was established in the first book that Willow was a half-green, half-black witch that could raise the dead using their bones. Yes, well, there's a slight semantic difference here between raising the dead and resurrecting the dead. Raising, in this context, means dragging the dead up from their graves and making zombies, basically. Resurrecting means bringing them back to life, which Willow does to an entire graveyard of dead witches at one point. And then Grey tells her she has to kill them again because it violates the natural order. Which the devil gives so many fucks about, I guess. It's difficult to precisely recap the book beyond this point because between the smut scenes, there's just so much yapping. Yapping yappers from Yapperton who spend their entire day yapping. There's a few takeaways from this yap fest that I'll try to sum up concisely. Willow wants to take down Grey. She's still very pissed about the lying and the murdering and also the forced to be the devil's wife thing. So she conspires with several other witches to do this. They quickly and conveniently find a spell that, if I recall correctly, was literally called something like spell to kill a devil. It was very on the nose. Shock, shock, surprise, surprise, it doesn't work. Grey's brother Michael, as in the Archangel Michael, intervenes and a fight breaks out. The seal to hell ends up getting opened. A few characters die. I think Michael might have been one of them, and some fall into hell. And of course, at the end, Willow decides that she loves Grey and wants to be his devil wife. Additionally, Willow learns that her and Grey's daughter is destined to lead the war against God in heaven, and also there's a goddess that's implied to be like Mother Earth, and like Lucifer, she's a fallen angel, so she's Grey's sister, and she gives her blessings to Grey and Willow's marriage, and that's the end of the fucking book. I I don't know where to start with this. I do not think that The Coven was a good book. I thought the writing was poor, and the fantasy suffered at the hands of the romance, or smut, I should say, because I was thoroughly unconvinced of any natural romantic chemistry between Gray and Willow. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm not a romance girly. I like it well enough as a side plot in other fiction, but I don't usually go for straight romance, or in this case, romantasy books. Yes, I get it. A big chunk of romance, particularly what's been popular on Book Talk, is really more like smut, which doesn't really rely on romance so much as it does sexual attraction. This book, in my opinion, is not a romance book. It's smut. And hey, if that tickles your pickles, go for it. I just wasn't into it. Especially considering that this is billed as a dark romance, so I'm expecting some villain stuff, and it just... It didn't really work all that well for me. Gray, who is the literal fucking devil, remember, is evil when it's convenient, and nice when it's convenient too. He's a bastard who's holding Willow hostage against her will after kidnapping her from her home, threatening her baby brother, being a perv towards her, and then one of his demon buddies snapping her neck. Oh, and also Willow was originally supposed to die as part of that ritual, by the way. She was supposed to get serial killed with the other witches in the first book. My point is that he does all of this stuff, which strongly implies that he does not actually give a shit about what Willow wants. He wants what he wants. And listen, the Book Talk girlies can scream problematic into the void all they want, but at least if an author writes a genuinely selfish bastard who consistently acts like a genuinely selfish bastard, there's potential for interesting character dynamics and relationships to develop. A fucked up relationship dynamic is interesting to read about. But what I'm finding I really hate about certain dark romance books is when the author promises me a villain, promises me a toxic asshole love interest, but then pivots and has them be warm and kind and supportive and snuggly when it's convenient, which is kind of what happens with Gray in this book. The author writes Gray as a psychopathic jerk, but then she turns around and has him say to Willow, "Oh, I would never make you have kids if you don't want to," and it is 100% genuine. Gray is really asserting that he would never force that on her if she didn't want it. There are a few moments in this book where Gray acts like the idea of harming Willow is abhorrent to him, and yet he's done it multiple times, and if you were wondering, no, this doesn't come across like cognitive dissonance, where the author is deliberately characterizing Gray as lacking self-awareness about his actions. It comes across as the author switching up on his personality when she needs him to be the hot stud devil that Willow needs to be in love with. Now, if I thought that Gray was lying and manipulating Willow to keep her happy, I could have said, okay, he's being a manipulative piece of shit. Cool, consistent villainy. Even if he struggled with the idea, like he was having to make reluctant concession to keep Willow happy, I could have said, all right, he's playing his cards right and giving her something to keep her happy so that he can keep a hold of her. But Gray isn't lying, and I know this because like the first book, this one flips back and forth between Gray and Willow's perspectives. I can literally see during Gray's chapter that he's okay with not having kids if Willow doesn't want them. My point is this. If you want to write a monster bastard villain for a love interest, go for it. But you have to commit to either A, redeeming the villain so that they become more lovable in the audience's eyes, or B, writing them in such a way that we can still believe why the main character is falling in love with them despite being a villain. Or, C, make the hero into a villain. That's fun too. But you can't have the villain be a huge jerk one moment and then have them be a super understanding and supportive good guy the next. You have to make their positive traits fit within the context of the character you've established for them, or it comes across as contrived. I feel like some of the problem is a lack of comprehension and forethought about what makes a villain tick. I feel like the best villains I've seen are ones where the creators have clearly thought through their motivations and thought processes, and then from there, all of their other behaviors mold to fit these motivations and mindsets. It's rare that a villain is entirely evil. They have their merciful moments, they have their good points, they have their scenes where they're maybe a little kinder than normal. But what makes them good villains is that those choices still fit the basic diagram of who they are as people. The problem with Gray is that he is whatever the author needs him to be in the moment, either because that's how she wants him to be, or because she's trying to convince the audience why it is that Willow's falling for him. Sounds like a good time to get to the Devil Queen herself. Willow was slightly more consistent, personality-wise, in this book than she was in the first. In The Coven, she had some of the same issues that I mentioned with Gray. She's a super strong and smart and sexy saboteur in one moment, and then in the next she's a sassy girl boss who mouths off to powerful people even though she should be trying really hard not to be noticed or make any enemies. In The Cursed, Willow is pissed off about Gray's betrayal and wants to take him down. She does express some ambiguity in the book as the book goes on because of the, again, in my opinion, 100% unconvincing romantic and emotional connection between her and Gray, but the way it plays out was just frustrating. Willow really pissed me off towards the end of the book. So, after she tries to kill Gray with that ever subtle how to kill a devil spell, he tries to suss out who her co-conspirators were. And Willow, oh my god, I hate it so fucking much. Willow suddenly turns around, and this might have been after Gray gave her a good rogering, so maybe post-coital bliss might have been part of it. I don't know. I don't fucking remember. And was like, I got pushed into wanting to murder my husband. I shouldn't have been asked to murder my husband. I was in my room when I got to this point, and I literally yelled, "You Willow, you pussy-ass bitch!" I was mad. Girl, I am in your head. I know you wanted to either kill Gray or send him back to hell. Yeah, the other witches don't have an emotional connection to him, but you wanted to do this too. It doesn't help that for the 500th time, there's a bad domino effect happening here. I don't feel any chemistry between Gray and Willow, so I don't buy that Willow could love him enough to not want to take him out after everything he's done. So all of her ambiguity feels like it's being forced by the author. So when she insists that she was pressured to try and assassinate Gray, it really does come across like she's being the world's biggest pussy who wants to shove the blame off on everyone else for her choices. What a girl boss! Another issue I had was the one I touched on in the recap. There is a scene where Willow resurrects an entire graveyard full of witches, as in whole ass brings them back to total life. And then Gray tells her,
"Now put that thing back where it came from, or so help me!"
And Willow doesn't want to. She actually wants to go resurrect her mom. But apparently the devil gives a whole bunch of fucks about the natural order and says she's got to put them down. So Willow does. And everyone goes peacefully. Not a hint of protest. Mind you, these people are fully aware of what's going on around them and have their faculties. Some of them died tragically and are depicted as embracing people that they recognize. And yet not a single one of them resists or protests being killed. This felt, at the same time, like a contrivance and a wasted opportunity. It felt contrived to me because, one, of course we can't have anyone resist. If they do, Willow or Gray might have to put them down aggressively, and that might make them a skosh more villainous than the author is going for. There's clearly a line here that we seem to be wobbling back and forth over. It's okay for Gray to murder a bunch of students. Willow still loves him. But forcing her to have a baby when she doesn't want one isn't okay. Again, I'm repeating myself, but I need to drive this home. We're evil when it's convenient, and except when it's not, and then we're actually good people. But this scene felt like a wasted opportunity for the exact same reason. We could have had Willow make a tough and painful decision that furthered her character growth. We could have had her do something fucked up that might bring her closer to Gray's level of villainy. Again, turning the hero into a villain is a way to write villain romances. But nope, we just brush right by it. Everybody who suddenly found themselves alive again just calmly agrees to be killed and return to the earth. No pushback, no conflict, no nothing. What else? They elevated a background character with zero development from the first book into a minor character with zero development in this one. If you read The Coven, you might remember Iban, a blink and you'll miss him character that clearly had a crush on Willow. Well, in The Cursed, he's still crushing, but now he's angry that Willow's chosen Gray and wants to get rid of him so he can be with her. Unsurprisingly, absolutely nothing comes of this because Willow and Gray are clearly the endgame here. Iban's entire I wanna bang Willow subplot was a waste of time in my opinion. It's difficult for me to come up with what else to say because this book was just so disjointed. I feel like the author didn't have a really clear idea of what she wanted to do with the sequels, so she just kind of moseyed along and had characters yap to fill up the page count, and then, oh cool, something happened, except I'm bored to tears now and I don't care, I just want my suffering to be over. I cannot stress enough how much filler there is in this book. The smut scenes I can forgive. That's what the book is, that's the genre we're going for. But the pointless yapping that just existed to fill up a page count, I cannot forgive. As for other story complaints, let me check my notes. On page 2, Willow's eyes are described as blue with a hint of purple. My good bitch, we literally established in the first book that one of her eyes is violet. I will not tolerate this retcon after spending the entire book screaming about how no one in the Coven recognized that Willow had one violet eye, which is unique to the Hecate line of witches that is supposedly extinct, which makes her a part of some sort of prophecy that will destroy the Coven or something. I refuse to accept this, it's a blue eye with a teensy bit of purple bullshit. On page 120, Willow gets all pouty because Gray engages in some PDA with her in front of the Coven, and you know what? I'm going to quote it directly. For those who believed in demeaning the place of women by reducing us to whether or not we enjoyed sex, Grey had added fuel to the fire. Except by those standards, I wasn't Lucifer's whore. I was his fucking wife, and I would not let my sex life determine my value. I need to stress something here. I recall no significant posturing about sexual puritanism among the coven in the first book. This little screed about female sexuality literally existed for no other reason than for Willow to be a sex-positive girl boss who happens to be fucking the devil, who slit the throats of 12 students and would have slit Willow's too if Grey hadn't changed his mind and brought a bunch of his demon homies up to Earth a few days before this scene takes place. Girl, if I was a member of your coven and I found out that you were banging the devil that just murdered 12 students in cold fucking blood, whore would be one of the nicer things I would be calling you. But then on the next page, Jesus, I nearly shit myself with this one. So one of the council members incredulously asks Willow if she is reducing herself to being a plaything for this asshole, which honestly is not the craziest statement I've heard of in this book. But Willow's response might be. She says, I deny nothing, though I think we can agree I seem to be far more than a plaything. Perhaps the real reason you find him to be such a threat is because he respects women enough to let me sit at his side. Lucifer respects women! Except for the women he fucking murdered in the first book, including your Aunt Lorelai, you dumb bitch! I feel like that might be why you see it as a threat! My apologies, I got a little heated there for a second. That just, the author really thought she ate with that one, as the kids say. Like I just forget that Grey is a serial killer who literally murdered several people, a handful of which were women. Or that I'd forget that he forced marriage onto Willow and literally threatened to murder anyone who tried to help her escape a few chapters ago. Real respect for women, though! Yeah, I didn't like this one. Apparently there's gonna be a third book about an offshoot pairing from this book that I don't give a single fuck about, and I am not reading it. I have a different book from this author on my pile of to-read books, and I will not be getting to it anytime soon. I need a break from her for a bit. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.